is less over time.
Well, I thought we made an adjustment to the school improvement plan that removed responsive classroom training from it.
No, it removed the funding. That was the resource area. And it said 10% from the regular budget and 90% from grant sources, if any. And that's why I'm saying, yes, we don't have as much money this year, so it'll be a much lesser investment in that.
So what and I recall that now, that it was, because it was in the resources, it seemed to be a compromise to still include a part of the ongoing program, and I see the benefit of it, but what I'm wondering is, will we reduce some of that responsive classroom training? Has that funding been assigned to other professional development to fill in what the time block that we removed? We reduced.
We have. Dr. Condon's not here.
So curriculum-based.
Oh yeah, there's other stuff that we're using the money for instead.
Because I
Yes.
think it was certainly my view that that those resources were better spent towards curriculum, teacher training.
Yep.
In a balance. As I said, I recognize the benefits that we hope to achieve by incorporating responsive classroom approach, something new, but also I think there's other areas that must have increased, so we just didn't see that.
Yep.
So is that part of the goals?
It is when you take a look at, if you go back to curriculum and instruction, when you're talking about, in particularly at the elementary, actually assessment and curriculum, when you talk about reconfiguring the common assessments at each grade level to align with the common standards, that's not bringing somebody from the outside to do that. That's not bringing a prepackaged assessment program. That's taking our staff and saying, okay, we have these packages. How do we adjust them to correspond with the Common Core? Or if we have some teacher-made assessments, how do we make sure those assessments are aligned to the Common Core? You know, it's always one of those things, whether you code that in terms of the budget, the actual work that we do with the teachers, we call it a workshop. You know, we bring people, we have people in-house that are very knowledgeable about these things, including Dr. Condon. So she leads the workshop, and we pay people to come in and do the work and work through the workshop to get these things done. The same thing with the instructional units. So these are week-long, what does Marge like? Institutes. Marge calls them institutes.
Some are institutes.
And we have the staff literally doing this work under the direction of Dr. Condon, who's leading them because she has the expertise, but that's where the money is going. So, you know, multiply, you know, $30 an hour, just, I think what's in the contract, that's how many days, times how many hours a day, times 3 weeks.
So where we've got less emphasis on the school climate, we've got more on the curriculum.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I just have, I have
Oh,
one
absolutely.
question for her.
I'll wait.
I actually have the same responsive classroom question. I was wondering how you were going to finagle that. But in addition, looking at the collaborations and partnerships, I actually just have a question. I know last year, or before this prior year, the year prior, there was a collaboration with the middle school and the fourth graders, working with the band and people coming at the end of the day. Is that something you're going to look at and reincorporating?
Because of the schedule and the budget cuts this year, that did
Still
not
not.
happen. What we had to do this year was, we had
The
the
after
fourth
school.
graders go over to the middle school, and Mr. Nunes put on a little presentation for them
Right.
about the instruments and all that. But
Right.
they didn't have the opportunity to play instruments at the end of the year, this year, or towards the middle of the year to the end of the year, just because of how the schedules changed. I don't have any extra periods, I don't have any extra specialists in my schedule this year, and I believe it's the same as the middle school as well, so they aren't freed up to come but even if they were freed up to come, there isn't any time in the kid's schedule
Is
that
that,
isn't.
is that something that you guys had even thought about maybe doing with some of the collaborations you're working with? I don't know, either the music boosters or an after-school program for the kids that are really, I don't know. It's just something I thought was very good for them.
Certainly think
It gave
about
them a taste of being able to play an instrument so that when they got into middle school, they had that foundation before they got there. And, you know, it was definitely a head start for, and I know that the teachers at the middle school that were doing it were missing it. And I think the kids wished they could have done it as well, so I was just
Certainly something. One of
curious
my
if that
children
was.
did and one of my children didn't, so
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. But it's something that we could certainly look at as maybe part of our after-school PTO activities next year.
Okay, Eric?
Great,
Through the chair, Mrs. Wilkinson again.
yes.
By looking at your accomplishments, you commend your staff. You guys did a very good job on meeting all your goals, and
Thank you.
to that. We put you in a tough situation last year by having you principal of 2 schools because of budget. Kind of a curveball to you. What would you recommend to us next year if we had the same budget problems, which we almost do? Did it work or not?
It's been
On
incredibly
your
difficult.
level, I mean, we just saw the goals and it
Yeah.
is working, but
Yeah.
what's the real,
I don't think people realize and acknowledge the amount of work that has to be put in to do. Talking in June is a very difficult time to ask this question, as the custodians have kicked me out of the building at 10:30 several nights in the past week. You know, I'm working until 10:30 to do my job, so I've diligently worked to do it, and I think I have done it to the best of my ability. But I think there's a lot of missing pieces because of it. I don't have the connection with students. I don't have the time in classrooms. There's definitely a little bit of a disconnect. I feel that I'm dealing more with the running of the building
the administration of it?
the evaluation of staff and, you know, attending meetings, and I'm delegating an awfully lot more than what I had delegated in the past. And I'm just not as intimately involved with the inner running of the school. And I think that that's a big missing piece
Okay.
for, not for me, but for a district. I think it's very important. And, you know, I'm doing my work at 3:30 until whatever time so that I can try to keep up those pieces. With Macomber being a smaller school, I don't think that they lost out on anything this year because they had Juliana Pacetto there as the assistant principal, which, you know, she's done a very, very nice job. Mrs. Antonelli has supported them with the reading as well. But I definitely was not there as much as I was at the elementary school. I think because of the age difference as well as the size difference, it really has made a difference. I think it's a tough situation. I don't know that I have suggestions for you. It's,
Okay. Well, you and your staff need to be commended, so thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we going in order of the packet here? That'll put the high school next. I have the high school next.
I don't.
Do I not? Yeah.
We have middle school.
Mm,
No, the cover page. Pick up the,
I thought it was middle school next.
Middle school is next.
yeah, I have high
your
school next, but we'll do middle
See,
school.
the
Did your
packets are
packet get
messed up.
screwed up?
She has my letter, too.
Is this, I don't know.
do we have the middle school?
I have middle
Looks
school
like
next.
this.
This is,
That's-
I did have the middle school in here, but I believe it was just not in order of the schools. I thought it was a funny order.
Well, they were all copied.
They
It's
went
okay,
through the
Karen.
same printer.
They're 19. I copied 19 at
Middle
a
school.
time. Oh, my
Okay.
God. Okay. Here, do you have it?
There's no,
I
There was a
did have
cover
it,
page.
actually.
Westport Middle
Maybe
School.
I don't have it.
Maybe I missed it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It looks like this.
No pictures, Mike.
Just by way of an introduction, Mr.
Oh, you know, it freaks me
Mr.
out.
Simonello
It's like
has
that.
one of his staff, whom I gave kudos to last night at the 8th grade graduation. David Sullivan is retiring after 34 years, mostly as a 6th grade teacher. which if you asked me to stay in one spot for that many years, I don't know what I would do, but I probably wouldn't do very well with it. But they had planned his celebration tonight, so I figured we have an intern in the building for administration, and I figured what better way to introduce her to what administration is really like, but going to meetings at night and having to present in front of the community. So this is Miss Carolyn Ponce. She's been the administrative intern at the middle school from, I don't know, a couple of weeks, 3, 4 weeks ago?
4 weeks.
Has it been 4 weeks? Oh, my God. 4 weeks now till the end of the year. So she's going to present, and I'll be there to back you up.
Okay, good. The first goal was for assessment, and what we did was use an assortment of data to improve the student achievement, and that was done through ITBS scores, MCAS scores, Gates Maginity scores, which is actually a reading program that was done testing in the beginning of the year and was just recently done now to check benchmarks to see where students have improved. And also the 5th grade did a Math Galileo scores. The goal is to continue to collect the data and analyze it by incorporating the assessments into the curriculum units that we are designing now. The second goal was for the curriculum to complete 50% of the curriculum units of study, which we have done. And the goal for next year will be for 70% of the units to be done, with most of it really looking at math, because the math standards for the state are changing. So some of the units absolutely have to be looked at and rearranged. For instruction, they did a tiered instruction system in writing in grades 7 and 8. And what they did was during school enrichment times, the ELA teachers pulled small groups of students aside to give them small group instruction on ways to improve their writing, and they've collected some data on that. The tiered instruction will definitely continue, but what they'll do for the next goal is to look at ways to do it along with math and ELA. For the school climate, grade 5 and 6 were going to be changed in developmental designs. They have done that, and they have been implementing it in their homerooms. And I know that they've all been collecting data to show its effectiveness. The goal for now is to get 7th and 8th grade doing it as well, and for 5 and 6 to do developmental designs too. For community collaboration and partnership, with the elementary school, they want to identify students that require specialized placement, and with the high school to look at ways to get some of the students that didn't get into the Algebra 1 programs to look at a different assessment to try and work to get them into the programs that they want to get into. For student organizations, the goal was to investigate the possibility of expanding club offerings at the middle school. They definitely did that. They started quite a few with a book club and then a science fair that's going to be started up next year. There'll also be a student team recognition committee that will include students to find ways to help them improve their performance by setting standards that they would like to see themselves achieve.
Thank you.
All right.
Chair. There's actually a question for both the past Mrs. Wilkinson and Mrs. Ponce. I see that we had a 40% goal on one of the last ones, and we have a 50% goal here. Are those lofty goals, or are those just easily attained, being only 50%?
Are you talking about the goals?
Yeah, the goals that they have, like that
for the
50% of
units?
the curriculum being done. Is that a lofty goal, or is that a standard?
There were some, last year, when we met with the administrators over the course of the summer, we tried to go back and look at grade level by grade level, department by department, how many units had already been created, how many units were in the process of being created, because we do a lot of the work over the summer. And then we said, okay, how many units do we think we can do over the course of a year? So for last year, knowing the ones that we thought we already had, the ones that we had planned on doing, and how much